Today we are going to make the most delicious cinnamon rolls I've ever made. These are not like your regular run-of-the-mill cinnamon rolls. They're done in a completely different way, and I can't wait to show you how to make these. Let's get started. So the first step is we're going to add 539 grams of flour, or 4.5 cups, to our mixing bowl. This is an enriched dough, which means it has sugar and butter and milk in it, and it makes a different cinnamon roll than if I were using a regular bread dough just and rolling them up at the end. So we've got a cup of lukewarm milk. I do it in a pan because I have more control than the microwave. Microwave is fine, it just can overheat quickly. And so you want to be able to stick your finger into the milk and hold it there for about 10 seconds, and you really shouldn't feel the temperature. It's very lukewarm. It's just to help activate that yeast. So you're going to pour that in with the flour. And the nice thing about this dough is that everything goes in at the same time. You want softened butter, and it really means softened butter. You want to make sure, because that's going to mix in really well with the flour. You have about a tablespoon of yeast. It does not need to be processed before you put it in, bloomed. You can put this in. It rises for a long time, and the milk helps with that. A half a cup of sugar, or never mind. Half a cup of sugar. Forgot the grams. 2 eggs. If you're insecure, or if you're feeling like maybe you're going to get eggshells in there, then break them into a bowl beforehand. I just look and make sure there aren't any in there. And then 1.25 teaspoons of salt. And I'm just going to dump that in. And then we're going to turn this on, and we're going to start this on slow and low and let that get mixed up. So now that it's mixed up and the flour is not going to go poof, I'm just going to turn this up a little bit and let that get going. And right now I'm on a medium speed. Turned it up a little bit because I want that dough that's in the middle of that to clear out. And for the most part, the centrifugal force will push most of that out of there, but as the dough beats, it will also help push it out of there. And see, it's cleared up now. And so this is going to beat, you have to mix like this for about 10 minutes. And when it's finished, theoretically, I should not have to knead this. And so we'll be back. Okay, so I've just turned this dough off. I started off at about a 1, very low speed, turned it up to about probably a 4 on medium speed, and then by the time I moved it up to 6, and then by the time I got to this point, I had it up to 8 or 9, 10, the highest it would go, and it's done a fabulous job kneading this dough. It looks great, it's nice and smooth. I'm not even sure I'm going to need any flour with this one. The biggest challenge is just getting it off of this beater, but it's pretty easy to deal with. So we'll just get this out of here. It's very warm, and it's not sticking to my hands at all. This is just beautiful. See how easy that's coming off? It's just leaving a tiny bit behind. If this was a bread dough, for instance, this would not be possible. And I'm just going to put this together. I have a little flour there. I don't think I'm going to need to use that flour with this one. So I'm just going to roll this up into a little ball. That is a perfect looking enriched dough. And now we're going to let this rise for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and we'll be back. It's been a couple of hours and this dough is perfect. It's just a really nice looking dough. And so what I'm going to do is dump this out, and I am not going to push this down at all. I am going to cut this. I'm looking for 100-gram measure on these. It makes for a very large cinnamon roll, but it is delicious. So we are going to cut a couple of, see what we've got here. That's 166, so that we'll take that right there. So, and we'll get 4 more of these at 100. And the reason that I'm measuring these is that it's the cooking time. You just want it to be consistent. And so I'm just getting them as close to 100 as possible. And then they all will cook the same way. I have another video out there that talks about cinnamon rolls. This is a different way to do this. This is my favorite way to do this when I'm just making cinnamon rolls. And what you do is you take the dough that you've been, that's been sitting. This is the enriched dough. And we're gonna lengthen this out. We're gonna do no rolling pin work at all. We're not gonna flatten these out at all, except we're just gonna make a long. And what I'm doing here is I'm just pardon my fingernails, they've got cinnamon under them. We're just gonna make that about a little bit longer. You're just looking for something, you're taking that 100 grams and spreading it out. I guess we can measure this. I would say 16 to 18 inches long. And that 100 grams of dough gives you just the right amount to be able to get it to that length. When you put it in the butter, it kind of wants to shrink up again. You don't have to worry about being too gentle with this. And then we just put this in here. You're going to cover that with the cinnamon again. Going to hold it in the middle gently and pull ever so slightly. Don't run your hands down it because all the cinnamon will come off. Just lay it in there. And then you just start rolling it up. And every single inch of this is covered in cinnamon. Okay, so I've got those ends tucked. This one looks a little better. Okay, so I am going to clean up the mess as I go along on the counter because it kind of drives me crazy, but it is okay if it gets on the counter. It's just a little bit easier for my head in particular if it's not quite that messy. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to just keep rolling it, pulling. And I'm kind of squishing as I go along to help that length get there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm just going to roll that back up so it's in a, you can leave it flat. I've left it flat. And then we're running out of butter. I have some melted. I'll get some more for the next one. Put that in the butter. Put it back over here and just make sure you cover that with cinnamon and sugar. And because we're stretching that back out, the ratio of cinnamon and sugar remains where it should be. Okay, and then we're going to start rolling this up. Okay, we're going to take that and tuck it just in there just a little bit. Then we're going to tuck it on this side. Make sure that's all covered. Kind of squish that all back in together. And we're going to make sure that, and you can, once this starts cooking, all of those layers will start showing again. Okay, so I have the oven at 375. I'm gonna put these in for about 20 minutes and we'll be back. So the buzzer has gone off. It's been about 20 minutes and we are going to take these out and give them a shot, see if they are up to temperature. They should be about 190 degrees in the thickest part. Okay, so this is a nice instant thermometer that I have that is very handy for something like this. So it looks like one of those that we didn't tuck came undone. So instead of having a cinnamon roll, you have an artistic looking cinnamon something. But the rest of these came out quite nicely. We're gonna let these cool. Okay, so I'm gonna take these off. And you've got a little bit of caramelized sugar that has come off that I'm just going to leave on there. Just take it off when you're eating them if you want to, but it's quite yummy. So I'm just going to leave that there. And here is our artistic cinnamon thing. And what we want to do is we want to wait for about 10 minutes and let these cool off, or the icing will just fall off or go in. It will just kind of disappear. So I'm going to put this together, and then we're going to wait until these cool off just a little bit. So first we're going to put a little bit of vanilla in. Probably this is about a little over a cup of sugar, of confectionery sugar. And I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon of vanilla in there. That's to taste. You can put as much as you want. And then I'm using half and half. Sometimes I use heavy cream. I'm going to put about a tablespoon in there for the first attempt. It's nothing worse than icing that's too wet, so I just kind of start off slow. And so you can see how that's getting wet, and it's shocking how quickly this turns into just too loose. Another tablespoon. And then we're going to give that a little taste to make sure that the vanilla and everything. Sometimes you can put a little dash of salt in too. Yep, the vanilla is perfect. Add a half a teaspoon. You can also put a couple of splashes of lemon juice in this if you want. I am going to put just a tiny pinch of salt. I mean, just a little teeny bit. The salt just made it just a little bit less sugary. Perfect. Okay, so we'll let that sit for about 5 minutes while these cool off, and then we'll frost one or two of them. I'm going to take the best looking one, which means more traditional looking one. The thing about this, the way I'm doing this today, is that they come out in a very rustic, authentic way, but they are the best cinnamon rolls I've ever made. I've been making cinnamon rolls for 40 years, and this is the best way that I found to make them. It is so easy, and it's a little bit messy, but they come out, and honestly, if you could just take a look at how completely covered, and then on the bottom, when this all cools down completely, it's just got a nice crunch on the bottom, like a layer of caramel almost. It's just delicious. I don't like to frost them because it cuts down on this. I don't know if you can hear this incredible crunch, and it goes crunch. So we're gonna frost one just because we can. So we're gonna just drizzle this on. You can put as much as you want on there. Just like to cover that up as much as possible. When you do use this, it goes down in between the layers and just makes it even more yummy. But the same thing happens when you put it in the little container and dip it. So